Okay, so it is the income which is accruing to the household from all sources. Now just remember the private income. Private income was the income of household sector and the firm sector. So it means if from the private income I subtract the income of the firm, I will get the income of the household. Or simply private income minus the income earned by the firms is equal to the personal income. Now this income of the firms, as you know, the income of the firms is profit. And profit constitutes three things: dividend, corporate tax. Remember this, we have also done the operating surplus in national income, and corporate savings, or we also call them as retained earnings of private enterprises, or we also call them as undistributed profit. Now let's see. It means that personal income is, first logic is clear that personal income is the private income minus the profit, or the three constituents of profit. But actually if you look at this dividend, then you know that dividend is what? It is the money which is paid to the shareholder as an interest. It is like an interest, but it is specifically paid to the shareholders holding the shares of a company. So which means that dividend has already been given to the shareholders, and shareholders are the household sectors. They are the public of the economy. Like I may have the shares of a particular company, so it will give me the dividend. So it means that now profit doesn't contain three things, it contains only two things. That is, I have to subtract from the private income corporate tax and corporate savings, and I will get the personal income. So private income minus corporate tax and corporate saving or retained earning or undistributed profit is equal to personal income. This is the formula for personal income. It is equal to private income minus corporate tax and corporate saving or retained earnings of the private enterprise. And definition is, it is the income accruing to the household from all sources. Then next last aggregate of the private income is the personal disposable income. Many times abbreviated as PDI, that is personal disposable income. Actually this is the actual income which is showing you the actual purchasing power in the economy. Means how much goods can be consumed in an economy, or how much consumption and saving can be done in an economy. It is, first of all, understand the meaning. Disposable means at your own will. You can use it at your own will. Whatever you want you can do with it. Okay, no one else has to interfere in between. Now just look at the definition. It is the income left after making all necessary payments to the government. It means from the personal income, whatever income is left with you or with the household sector after making the necessary payments to the government is known as the personal disposable income. Or it is the income which is my own income. Suppose the salary of a person is 10,000 and he has to pay 500 as tax. So it means 9,500 is the income at his disposal. Okay, he can use that income as he wishes. He can spend it or he can save it. So it means that if from the personal income, again I subtract two things. That is, first is direct taxes, or sometimes also referred to as direct personal taxes or personal taxes. That is mainly the income tax charged by the government, and miscellaneous receipt. Now this miscellaneous receipt is any fine or penalty which has been imposed by the government on the particular person. Suppose this person is riding his two-wheeler without a helmet and has to pay 200 rupees as fine. So now his disposable income is 9,300. So it means along with the taxes we also subtract the miscellaneous receipts of the government, which mainly include the fines and penalties levied by the government on the public. Then I get the personal disposable income, right? And this is the income of the household which it can use as on its own will. Why we are referring only to the household? Because actually the economy is all about the household. All the members of the economy, whether they are firms or any other organization or the government or the rest of the world, they all actually belong to the household. So this PDI is also equal to the consumption and saving. It means that if in some question household consumption expenditure and household saving is given to me, then I can add these two or C plus S and I will get my personal disposable income. Then from the personal disposable income I can find personal income by adding these two. Okay, and similarly the private income can be found out. Suppose I have started, actually this whole chart can be used for moving from top to bottom or from bottom to top. That's why I am making it again. Here, like see this was private income. From private income we subtracted corporate tax and corporate saving, or we also call them as retained earning or undistributed profits. Then we get the personal income, and subtracting these we get the personal disposable income. So if I have the personal disposable income, by adding these two, I add these two direct taxes and miscellaneous receipt, I will get the personal income. And if I again add corporate tax and corporate saving to personal income, I will get the private income. Then again refer to this chart. On its top it had NDP FC. Remember when we made the chart for private income, how to calculate private income, on the top it was NDP FC. So it means from private income I can also move on to the calculation of national income. For that type of question, from the private income, first I will find out B. I will extract B. Remember B was the factor income earned by the private sector. So from private income I will subtract NDI, I will subtract NFIA, and I will subtract the current transfers from abroad and current transfers from government. Then I will get my B, that is the domestic product earned by the private sector. And if I add the domestic product earned by the government, I will get the NDP FC. And again adding NFIA to it will give me national income. So this whole chart can be used for moving from top to bottom or from bottom to top. Okay, now we have to understand another important topic, that is real and nominal GDP. First of all, we know what is GDP. It is the value of the goods produced, or it is the value of the production of an economy. And simply GDP is always in the monetary terms, because it will be difficult if I try to calculate the GDP in terms of commodities. For example, say in an economy, say 10 cars were produced, say 5 markers were produced, or say 50 markers were produced, say 100 books were produced, and so on. Okay, so it will be difficult to add 10 cars and 50 markers and 100 books. So what we do is we take their monetary value, that is the money value. Money value of 10 cars will be 10 into value of 1 car. Suppose the value of 1 car is 1 lakh rupees. So it means here the value will be 10 lakh. For marker, suppose the value of 1 marker is 20 rupees. So 20 into 50, that will be 1000 rupees. Suppose the value of book is say 100 rupees. So this will be 10,000 rupees. So GDP will be, we will get the GDP in the monetary terms, right? And it means that the GDP will be calculated by multiplying the price and quantity of all the commodities which have been produced in an economy, and then summating them or adding them together. So this is the way how we calculate GDP. Now after knowing this, we can understand the difference between the real and nominal GDP. Real GDP is the GDP at constant prices, and nominal GDP is the GDP at current prices. Means I can also call it as GDP, real GDP as GDP at constant prices, and I can also call nominal GDP as the GDP at current prices. Just take an example. Suppose I say commodity X. Say in 2010, 50 units of this good X were produced in the economy, and the price of this particular commodity was 10 rupees. So it means GDP of 2010 for commodity X is rupees 500, right? Now suppose in 2012, say 40 units of the good were produced, same good X, but this time the price of the good was say 15 rupees. So now the GDP for good X in 2012 is rupees 600. It means when I will look at the money value or the monetary value of GDP in 2010 for commodity X, that will be 500, and for 2012 it will be 600, and these both are nominal GDPs. Means this is also the GDP at the current price of the same year or 2010, and this is the GDP of 2012 at the price of 2012. It means that this nominal GDP will fail to show me the correct picture. About the economy. Why I am saying this, that it fails to show me the correct picture? Because the GDP is showing me that the economy is growing, there is growth, or there is rise in the GDP, but actually what is happening? The production is decreasing. Production tends to decline, and when production is declining, it means that the economic activities are decreasing in the economy. So actually my economy is going backwards, but this nominal GDP is showing me that the economy is growing. That's why I say that it does not show me the correct picture of the economy. So to solve this problem, we introduce the concept of real GDP. Just let it be the same example. When we talk about the real GDP, then what we do is we calculate it at the constant price or at the base year price. This term base year you must have done in class 11 in the index numbers. Base year is a year which is marked as the base for the calculation of GDP in an economy, and it is a year which doesn't have any unfortunate losses or doesn't have any abnormal or supernormal gains. It is a normal working year in the economy. Say for example, if I have to select the base year for the Indian economy, I would select a year in which there hasn't been any drought or famine or any such calamity, or there hasn't been any abnormal profit or any you can say fortunate gain which may not occur again. Right now the base year of Indian economy is 2000 and 2001. Earlier it used to be 1996, earlier it was 1990, so it is changed according to the changes in the circumstances. Now to solve this problem, what I do is, suppose in 2000 and 2001 the price of this commodity X was say 6 rupees. So what I will do is, I will calculate the GDP at the price of rupees 6. It means that GDP for 2010 will be 50 into 6, that is 300, and for 2012 it will be 40 into 6, that will be 240. So now I get the correct picture that the economic growth is declining or falling, or economy is moving backwards. Right? This is the difference between real and nominal GDP. This is how it is calculated. I have explained you all this so that you can understand it forever and never forget that what is real GDP and what is nominal GDP. And always remember, when we are talking about the about using GDP as a measure of growth or as a measure of welfare, we always take the real GDP, because nominal GDP will always give me the wrong picture about the economy. So this is one limitation of using GDP as a measure of welfare which we try to solve by introducing the concept of base year or the GDP at real prices or the constant prices. Then next, one more important topic is that the limitations of using GDP as a measure of welfare. See, many times in the news or any other program or any magazine releases or in the newspaper, you must have seen that the GDP is increasing by this much or it is increasing at the rate of certain percent, 7 or 8%. What we are trying to do is we are trying to calculate the growth of our economy on the basis of the GDP. And it is true that most of the growth is calculated in the terms of GDP, but there are certain limitations of using GDP as a measure of growth or welfare. The first is that we always have to use the real GDP that we just discussed, that it should always be the real GDP, not the nominal GDP. So if we are using nominal GDP, that is also wrong, that is a limitation. Second is externalities. Externality can be defined as a particular event or an activity from which a particular party or a person is affected but is not directly part of it. Just understand, it is any event by which a person or a party or an organization is affected but it is not directly part of it. Suppose, take an example, you had to reach to your school on time. You started on time but you got late because of an accident happened on that particular road. So you were not involved directly into that accident, but that accident caused a jam because of which you got late. So it means for you this event is an externality. For example, suppose the children used to play in a park in a particular place, and now that park has been converted into or has been turned into an industry or agricultural land. So they do not have any place to play now. So they are affected by this converting of the park into an industry or a factory, but they are not directly part of it. So this is the externality, and GDP doesn't consider any externality. Externality may be positive or negative, but here we are talking about the negative externalities which are not being considered by the GDP. Then third is non-monetary transactions. Okay, non-monetary transactions are those transactions which cannot be measured in terms of money. That is, say the social condition of the economy, the crime rate at a particular place, the literacy rate at a particular place. So these are cannot be measured in the terms of money. That's why they are also not included in the GDP. Then fourth could be it doesn't consider the environment. Okay, it may cause some harm to the environment. Like setting up of the industries can lead to more pollution. Okay, noise pollution, air pollution, water pollution. So these are also not counted under the GDP. So these are the four basic limitations of using GDP as a measure of welfare, and these may be asked from informal questions from you. Okay, then another concept is green GDP. The newer version of GDP is known as the green GDP. It is simply the growth in GDP without harming the environment. Okay, where we are considering our environment before taking any decision, or you can say the growth of the industries is not harming the environment. Like for example, you must have come across there are various government norms behind the disposal of the waste from the factories. Okay, they have to put in the treatment plants and so on. Similarly, for the industry which release smoke, they also have to have, if there is any poisonous gas, they have to first filter it, first treat it, and then only they can leave the waste into the environment. So this type of concept is known as green GDP, where the GDP growth is without harming the environment and also using the resources in a sustainable manner. Means not over exploiting the resources. Then the next topic would be GNDI, that is gross national disposable income. Remember, we have just done personal disposable income, the income which is left after making all the necessary payment to the government. When we say GNDI or gross national disposable income, we are referring to the disposable income of the whole country, that is gross national disposable income. It is equal to GNPMP plus net current transfers from abroad. Means if you have to find GNDI, you first have to find GNPMP. Now any method can be used for it, income method or expenditure method or value added method, depending on the data which is given to you. And then you add the net current transfer from abroad, you will get your GNDI. Then after GNDI we have NNDI, that is net national disposable income. Again it has the same meaning, only one difference is there, that it will subtract, first we will subtract the depreciation, or NNDI doesn't include any depreciation while GNDI includes the depreciation. So we can say NNDI is GNDI minus depreciation, or we can say it is NNP MP plus net current transfers from rest of the world, right? Because if I subtract depreciation from GNP MP, this minus this, I will get this, and plus net current transfers from abroad. One more important thing, that depreciation is equal to GNDI minus NNDI. In some of the questions this might be given, GNDI and NNDI might be given to you. So in that question you can calculate depreciation by subtracting NNDI from GNDI.